afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you that don't know, which most will by now, my name is Sharon McIntyre. I work part-time in the genetics space for Deer Industry New Zealand, and my husband and I farm deer in Southland. I'm passionate about genetics, but I do know that it's not everyone's passion, but I'd like to emphasise to you today in my talk that it's one of those things that underpins everything you do on your farm every day. And if you think about it once a year carefully when you make that stag choice, then I'm happy with that. Okay, to me genetics is an opportunity. Deer farms are very diverse. We have a very range of hinds on hill country, hinds on flat country, we have finishing farms, we have velvet operations. Very diverse, and our farmers are also very diverse, and they have different, our properties have different potentials and limitations, as do our deer genetically. Also, our farmers have different preferences, and we need to consider that. There is not one size that fits all. We have some challenges in the deer industry. We have an animal that has predominantly one fawn a year, so we're not in the same space as sheep with their multiple lambings. And so some of these things that are important drivers of finances in our farm systems have very small genetic components like reproduction and survival. We've heard quite a lot today about first calver reproduction rates and mixed age hind reproduction rates and survival. These areas are very important drivers of profit, but they have quite a small genetic component. Although that's small, it is very important. There are some genes that drive production, such as growth, that can have a negative impact on survival and reproduction. These are well known in other livestock species, such as beef cattle, where we have an increase in the time to puberty in beef cattle with some of the high growth genes. We need to consider reproduction in our breeding objective, and we're working hard to have breeding values available to industry in this space in the near future. It's not so much that we want them to have multiple births or that we were going to be able to change survival genetics greatly, but it's to protect ourselves against some of those negative impacts. Growth has been a huge success story in the deer industry. I'd just like to highlight a couple of things here. Prior to the DPT, we're seeing about a 0.4 kilogram increase in live weight. This is genetic live weight, not what you're doing with your pastures, in all our red deer herds. The DPT kicked in 2011, and you can see that we've had quite a rapid growth and improvement in the genetics over this period. We've actually 4 times faster than what we were doing before. So the DPT was a massive investment by the deer industry, but I'd like to show you that there really are some wins on the board that are available to every deer farmer. So meat was another area that was a big issue in the DPT. There were over 65 measured meat traits that were recorded at great detail right through to eating quality and taste. There are some key findings that will come out of that, and Jamie's going to cover those in a more detailed talk. But the thing that struck me most was, can we put more meat on the animals that we have? And one of the key findings was that eye muscle area, when it's corrected for carcass weight, was a good indicator of overall prime meat yield, and it was also positively associated with tenderness. For some animals, when we have an improvement in lean meat production, we've had some deterioration in things like texture or taste. We haven't seen that in that set of data, which is fantastic. This here is an interesting graph. So on the side here we have the genetic merit for eye muscle area, and it's corrected for carcass weight because otherwise bigger animals will have a bigger eye muscle area. But these are at a standard carcass weight, and along the bottom here we have merit for weight 12. So you can see we've got everything from about -5 up to over 30 kilograms. This here, so these are all the sires in red herds that have progeny, I think, in the last 5 years. So you can see almost there's a slight trend upwards that as weight 12 gets better, eye muscle area gets better. But it's a pretty small trend. But half our animals at any given merit. So if we look at 20 here, we've got some animals that are -1 that are below average for eye muscle area to animals that are 2 centimetres squared above average. So we've got quite a difference. I think that we've really done a good job on the growth, but there's scope for us to put more meat on those carcasses that we're looking at. And it doesn't matter whether that's red size or wapiti size, the wapiti graph looks almost identical to this one, with the same amount of scope to increase muscling. So as part of the P2P genetics theme group, we have a challenge to increase the uptake of improved genetics, and we have some various activities that we've been working on. One of them is more accessible and usable information. So there will be searchable sire information available on the DINS website in the near future. I've done work with genetic plans with different groups. RBV's real. We have a program called DEERSelect, which is a follow-on from DPT. And we've had some, in 2014, very fortunately, we had a range of some English sires that were sort of average merit for the industry. We had some high growth rate reds and we had some high growth rate elk. And we monitored their weights over each month. And it showed that BVs were real. We could predict the performance of their progeny. So it's not just stats and maths and wizardry. It does actually result in real differences. But one of the things I'd like to concentrate on for this next section is a wee bit of work we've done on genetic improvement modelling. So when people are looking at putting better genetics into their system, as a farmer there's a whole lot of questions that might raise for you. Will my hinds get bigger? Will my stocking rate change? Will there be feed pinches? Are there some crisis points that I need to consider? So these are the things that can be barriers to changing what you've already got working. And the more important one is, will I make more money? A bit of work was commissioned from AgResearch, and we have the 2 authors in the audience today, and they will be here over the next couple of days if you have any questions for them. So it's Brian Thompson and Jamie Ward. We use that DEERSelect model. So here you can see, here's our average red growth rates over the period. They were all killed in October, so it stops here. This is our high red, and this is our high elk wapiti sire here. And these are the live weights on each month. And within the sires that are available to industry, there's everything in between those, and some are a wee bit lower. So using that kind of actual information, these animals were all fed together and had the same animal health treatments. So you can see that genetics really do offer limitations and potential in your system, and a lot of that potential is actually already determined by the weaning weight back here. We get a wee bit more spreader here, but you can see that a lot of this is already achieved by March. So every property has its limitations. I don't want to cover the modelling in any depth, but this is a pasture growth curve that was relevant to our model, and so if we're going to change anything, we have to fit within it. They worked out what the likely kill schedules were, the numbers and the weights on the different scenarios that they used. There were 4 scenarios they modelled. One is average reds, which is typical of the industry, high growth rate reds, average reds with 50% of the hinds going to terminal sires, and high growth rate reds with terminal sires. So it's not about having a blueprint for people to follow. It's about addressing those questions. Will my stocking rate change? Will my hinds get bigger? Will there be a feed crisis? It's about having a model that we can use with groups to answer some of those questions, to model their pasture growth rate curves, and to give them maybe some confidence in making those changes. And out of that, the point is that you can choose the best sire for you, for your preferences, for your property, for your limitations and your potential. And to me, genetics is an ongoing thing. Every year, you should be confident that your hind replacements are that little bit better than they were the year before. Deer breeding's a long game. The sires that you put out this year in 2015 will have first calvers in 2017. And those hinds will be in your property for another 6, 8, 10 years. So, we're looking out to 2025. So the decision of which size you put out this mating are going to determine your productivity for the next 10, 12 years. So it's an important decision. Doesn't have to be written down, but it does have to be well thought through. So just in here, there's the Wapiti stags on the right. I pinched off Donald White's catalogue. I had to search long and hard to find find a picture of stags without antlers on. I think, you know, animals that have the antlers on, we can easily be swayed by looking at an impressive set of antlers, but really, is that what is best fitting our objective? It may be or it may not be, but if we're talking about growth and meat, then the actual antlers are a distraction. And I'd also like to thank Jamie Ward for the use of his photographs in my presentation. So thank you very much. So this is where you remember the thing you forgot to say. So what I forgot to say is if any individuals or groups, it can be any discussion group, set of farmers, if you're interested in talking through any of these issues, you can contact Lorna or I through DINS and we can work with you, and Brian Thompson and his crew are available to assist with those discussions about the modelling.